In our last video, we talked about how Charlie lost his way while going home as he was working late at one summer night, and how the Grand Central Station is like a maze to Charlie. He had lost his way a couple of times earlier too while taking the subway. Now he will now he talks about what he really thinks, what is his interpretation of the Grand Central Station. So Grand Central Station is compared to a tree. According to Charlie, Grand Central is growing like a tree because it was pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. The narrator Charlie thinks the Grand Central Station is growing like a huge tree, and the corridors, the tunnels, the staircase are all its roots. Like like a tree grows its root underground, the the corridors, the staircase, the tunnels of the Grand Central Station are the roots that are spreading and expanding every day underground, leading to different places. He says whenever he goes into the Grand Central Station, he finds new corridors, new staircases, new doors, so he feels the station is growing and expanding like a tree with new roots in all the direction. These are all creation of his mind. So when he lost his way, he imagines the Grand Central Station through its tunnel and doorways lead one to different places of New York. He also feels probably there are tunnels that nobody knows about. It is a feeling that there is a tunnel that is underground and goes up to Times Square, and another tunnel may be going towards the Central Park, and he feels this Central Station is a kind of exit, a way of escape for so many people like him throughout the years. So he also feels that he got into a tunnel as if he was trying to escape the reality, although he never shared it with his psychiatrist friend Sam. The idea about tunnels being underground and the Grand Central Station growing like a tree, he didn't share all this imagination with Sam. Now let us study how he entered the third level and what the unusual things he witnessed in the third level. Students, please underline one important line, that is, Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. And the another one is because for so many years, people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. Maybe that's how the tunnel I got into. Please underline this two line. Then moving on. Now Charlie tells us what happened when he reached the third level. As you can remember, he ducked into an arched doorway from where he got lost. So I have given one picture of the arched doorway, how it looks. So arched doorway from where he got lost. While walking, he entered a corridor and he realized something was strange. The corridor he was walking into suddenly started bending towards left side and also slanted downwards, means sloping downwards, to which he felt odd and thought he might be moving in a wrong corridor, but he still kept on walking. He is the only person walking and did not cross anybody in the corridor. He would only hear sounds of his own footstep. There was no one except him, and the voice of his feet echoed. The voice of his own feet echoed. After walking some time, he heard some noises and discussion of people. and he understood that ahead of him there was an open space where people were talking. The tunnel took a sharp turn to left. He took the left turn and walked down some stairs. He reached the end of the tunnel and saw he had come out on the third level of the Grand Central Station. The another station at the Grand Central Station. Now, how did Charlie know that he has reached the third level? How come he is sure that it is not the first and second level? Let us find out that. Now let us see what are the unusual scene that Charlie noticed at the third level of the Grand Central Station. Just for a moment he thought he had come back to the second level, but then he understood that he had actually reached the third level. Now, what makes him understand this? Let's study. Please underline this portion. But I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking, and the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. The lights were dim and short of flickering. Then I saw why. They were open flame gaslights. So what happened when he reached the third level? It was a old looking station that is completely different from the first level and the second level. He notices the rooms were smaller, number of counters were less, and the number of train gates were also less. The information booth where people collect information about trains, departure, arrival was made of wood, like old style, and was old looking. The man in the booth was wearing a green eyeshade and a long black sleeve protector. The scenario was quite different in the third level. The entire station had an old look of 1890s. The lights were also dim and short of flickering, means shining unsteadily in the station at the third level, because there were open flame gas lights, as they were not the usual electric lights. The open flame gas lights, one image was given in the slide, and there were brass spittoons, a bowl or other container that's made for spitting, kept on the floor. And suddenly a flash of light coming from the other side of the platform caught Charlie's eyes. He saw a man was taking out his gold watch from his vest pocket. Vest pocket means very tiny pocket of his shirt, like people usually have in the front. He opened the cover of the watch and looked at the watch to note time and frowned like something makes him unhappy. Such spittoons and watches were very common during olden time. The man was dressed in an old-fashioned style. He wore a derby hat. Derby hat is nothing but a round hat with a little brim that was made in the USA in the 1850s. A black four-button suit with tiny lapels. Lapels, I have given you one picture. Then he had a black handlebar mustache. Now, handlebar mustache is the mustache is that was upwardly curved. So all these things gave the scenario of something in older times. Now he is giving the description of how people were dressing at the third level. Then when he looked around, he noticed everyone in the station was dressed like 1890s. It was very much in the past what all he was seeing around him. He had never seen so many beards, sideburns, and different style of mustache in his life. because he belonged from a different world, from a modern world, and people at the third level were all following the style or were dressed in a style of 1890s. He also saw a woman came from one of the gates of the platform, and she was wearing a special type of dress called leg of mutton. Now please underline that portion in the book. How the woman was dressed, it may come as your 1 mark MCQ question. So her skirts was up to her shoes, and the shoes were extending above ankles and had large buttons. So this is how the women dressed. Now behind her on the railway track, Charlie could see locomotive. Locomotive is nothing but small engine that was used to pull trains from the front. It was a small engine manufactured by Currier and Eves. Its stake is piece from where smoke comes out, as you can see it in the picture, and it was funnel shaped. Now he was sure about which time he is in. He further wanted to make sure about it, so he walked over to a boy who was selling newspaper. He looked at the newspaper staked on the floor. The person was standing. The name of the newspaper was the World. This newspaper used to get published many years ago. It was an old paper which used to publish in New York from 1860 until 1931, and he was sure he was travel into a different time. The main article in the newspaper was about President Cleveland, who was also in power from 1885 to 1897. From the front page of the newspaper, he was amazed to know that the date was June 11, 1894, and he realizes that he has gone back in time to 1894.